My name is Lorelei Jones. I'm an anthropologist and my research is on organisations and professions. In this session I'll be talking about documentary sources. Documentary sources are a good source of pre-existing data that you can collect rather than having to create new data as you would for interviews or focus groups. These could be internal or external sources that can be found inside or outside the context you're evaluating. If you're evaluating a new patient pathway within a hospital, for example, you might look at minutes of board meetings to see whether the issue has been discussed, the project paraphernalia that tends to accompany improvement work, such as project initiation documents, organisational charts and maps of patient pathways, and internal briefings and progress reports, and evaluations of related interventions within the hospital. In terms of external sources, you might look at evaluations of related interventions in other health-related contexts, as well as local and national policy documents, and the broader evidence in the literature on the topic you're interested in. So, for example, you might analyse what is known about integrated care if you're evaluating a new patient pathway that moves services that were traditionally provided in hospitals into primary care settings. Thinking about documentary sources qualitatively, it is important to consider how the phenomena these documents describe are constructed, and not just what is described. You need to check the representativeness of sources. So how full a picture does the document you are using provide of the intervention you are evaluating? This can become a question for your evaluation in itself as you analyse. For example, the ways in which the goals of an intervention are described in a board meeting paper relative to how its goals are understood on the front line by those delivering it. One advantage of documentary sources is that because you are making use of existing data, it is less resource intensive than conducting interviews or focus groups. Documentary sources are also useful for retrospective studies, where an intervention has been in operation for some time, as potential interviewees may not be able to recall the details you would like, or have moved into new roles. And consulting documents from the time can give you more substantive information. There is, of course, less need for interactive skills when collecting documents relative to interviews or focus groups. But you may find that obtaining internal documents from a health service organisation is in itself challenging and requires perseverance, as you may need to follow up on requests for documents via email or phone calls, as everyone is usually very busy. Finally, you'll need plenty of time to collate and analyse documents, much in the way that you would for other forms of qualitative data. Here is an example from a medication safety study. In this study, documents were used alongside interviews and observations. In this case, the documents that were collected included newsletters, annual reports, minutes of board meetings, and reports of adverse incidents. And that concludes this session on documents.